But what I want to talk about today is something that's been on my mind for a long time. And it makes me wonder, why I'm the only one who wants to talk about this very interesting subject. So, yeah, what I want to talk about is the fact that I don't know if too many people have seen that movie from, over 16 years ago? It's called Rugrats Go Wild. Well, naturally, I would stop at nothing to see it, even though I didn't get to go to the theater when it came out on Friday, June 13th, 2003. So, yeah. Um, so, as we all know, the Rugrats were popular in the 90s from about 91, and then there was another cartoon called The Wild Thornberrys, made by the same company, the Klasky Supo company on Nickelodeon. So they were never quite as popular as the Rugrats, but their peak was not much later than the peak for Rugrats' popularity. So as they started to lose popularity, they got the bright idea to have a crossover movie where the Rugrats would all meet the Wild Thornberrys on a vacation. So it's basically called the crossover movie Rugrats 3 or Thornberrys 2, whichever you want to call it. But I like to call it Rugrats Going Wild when I discuss it like this because that's pretty much what describes it. They pull out all the stops and they just really went. They just thought that they could be as nasty as they wanted to be, within certain boundaries, of course. But, they figured that they wouldn't be making episodes for too much longer of either show, so they got kind of wild with it, hence the title. So, yeah. But the thing that was most interesting about it, when I first saw it, the very first time I saw it on VHS, I rented it from the library. And I'm not sure if I realized it, but, of course, all three of them are kind of have some cringy moments where it's like, oh my gosh, when will this song ever end? Because, naturally, it's a kid's type of cartoon, and I was well over 20 by the time I saw it, so naturally it wasn't that interesting as far as me liking the music anymore, or, a lot of the silly stuff about it. But, in looking back, I've rewatched it and rewatched it as an adult. I would definitely rate it my favorite of the trilogy. And the reason is something that either nobody seems to have noticed, or for whatever stupid reason, nobody wants to talk about. And it kind of makes me mad because it's like, did anyone with two brain cells to rub together even go see the movie or watch it on VHS or DVD? Really. But one thing that most people probably didn't catch, and I would love so much to actually put a clip of it on here, but I'm not going to do it, is toward the end, okay, most people do not realize, I'm sure you guessed it's poop related, but Angelica literally crapped her pants. Oh my gosh. She literally crapped her pants about 65 to 70 minutes, depending on whether you watch the previews or not. She literally made a number 2 in her panties or whatever it is that she was wearing. So, the way that I know this is basically, it's that one line. I feel like they could have done more to make it more obvious, but oh well. And of course, they can't be graphic with it. Like, they can't actually show you what she did. Of course not. So, yeah, there's a limit to what you can really put in a kid's cartoon movie, even if it's rated PG. So, what happens is, well, first of all, as always, she eats like a hog pretty much anytime she can find cookies and sweets and candy. And, if you watch the show, you know that. But in a typical episode, I don't know if people are familiar with how they normally work. Typical episode or movie or whatnot, and this is why I identify with the character so much. She's the bully, the antagonist, and that's the way I see myself as a child. She tries to appear as a nice girl to the adults, but then whatever she can get away with, she does around the babies, because obviously they can't talk to adults. So it's kind of like, being around animals, or, anyone who just can't communicate with adults and say what you did. So anyway, she basically, just as always, she antagonizes them by, scaring them with these made-up stories of what's going to happen. These mutant lobsters are going to eat them if they make smells, which that's a very key, important thing. She keeps reiterating, no blowing bubbles, no making smells, no bugging me to wear my island shells or whatever. So anyway, she has a song about it, obviously. It's got to be like a musical. So yeah, but so toward the end, you see, she always gets her comeuppance or her payback. And what I love about this movie is the fact that her comeuppance is in the form of the absolute worst but most interesting thing that can ever happen to a female that's past potty training. And that's a big brown number 2 in your undergarments or whatever it is that you wear. Oh my gosh. So basically, that's the way, she would always get her payback. Like, what would end up happening is she would be mean to the babies and like tell them like some kind of a made up monster was going to get them. But somehow or another, the babies would, find the bravery to, defeat or not be afraid of whatever it was she told them about. But what would end up happening for her payback, for being a bully, was that somehow it would materialize or manifest in the form of, like, something that had a more logical explanation to the adults, but to her seemed like what she was telling the babies. And then, of course, everyone would live happily ever after, and she would get some sort of a payback, in some form. Either the babies would all retaliate or something would come out and get her. But, of course, it was never bad enough, to really be long lasting. So, but in this movie, like I say, she got the queen mother of comeuppance, or payback. And what ended up happening was she ate like the typical hog that she is. You know, she raided the convy basically of their Oreos, their cream soda, and that's important because keep in mind she said no blowing bubbles. Well, what ends up happening is she gets so scared, like in the submarine that she took from Nigel Thornberry, and um, she sunk the convy and all that. But what ends up happening is she gets so scared in the submarine after eating all that junk food and not going to the bathroom and drinking a big old bottle of cream soda, which gives you gas, by the way, and going underwater like that, definitely the bubbles want to rise up. Okay, so what ends up happening is she drops a deuce. Oh my gosh, in a submarine with all 7 other Rugrats and Nigel. So it's basically 9 people in a little submersible, I guess you'd call it, the bathysphere, which I guess was a play on words too. So she ends up having an accident or pooping her pants or however you want to say it, messing herself. And, she had just told the babies and been mean to everyone. She had told them like all these things about how they better not make any smells or the mutant lobsters were going to eat them. And no blowing bubbles, which the irony that most people didn't catch on to is that she blew bubbles out the other end. So yeah, she blew bubbles in her panties or diaper. It almost looks like a diaper. Like when you see under her dress, it looks like a big white diaper, just like Tommy and Lil and Kimmy and all of them. So yeah, I don't know why I'm the only one on the planet who seemed to notice that, but I guess maybe it's just that I'm more like into that. So obviously I'm looking for it. Everyone who has ever reviewed the movie seems to omit that fact. And at the very end, it's like she's dressed in completely different clothes, like no other character, no other Rugrat, like no other child on the show had to change everything they'd been wearing, and she looked like she was mad at the world, with Debbie near the very end, and she didn't want to hang out with all the others. But the way that that she's the one that pooped in her pants is because Nigel Thornberry, when Marianne asks him on the speaker thing, it's like a phone, Nigel, is everyone okay in there? He starts to say, excellent, dearest. Well, one little girl is rather pouty, and everybody starts looking at Angelica, and she's got this like worried look on her face, and somebody needs a diaper change. And then she suddenly gets really mad and she demonstrates pouty, but I won't say whom. And then she suddenly can't help but smirk, like a mischievous look. Like I'm really getting away with it. They're all going to think it's the babies. But then the younger kids, they all unanimously bust out laughing because she's the only one standing. And they're all sitting smack dab on their butts, including Nigel. Well, guess what it's very hard to do? In a sitting on the ground position. And guess who the only one who wasn't sitting down was when what looked like mutant lobsters, meaning the rescue arm, came down to grab the submarine. So she was telling him like about a squishy squid, and they see a giant squid, but the only thing squishy is what's in her pants. Okay, slimy and squishy. It's just like freaking really graphic visual like imagery, but it's like I don't even know how Cheryl Chase managed to even sing that if she knew, how it was going to end, which I assume maybe she didn't. So, or maybe she still doesn't to this day. Who knows? Oh my gosh! But she never like openly admitted it. They didn't want to make it too obvious. And then at the very end, the only like picture of just Angelica on the credits, the little snapshot that Susie took, is her trying to push the camera away. And if you look very closely on a high quality, high resolution TV or something, you pause it, you can barely see what almost looks like a brown shadow under her dress. You can barely see it, like almost like the poops running down her legs, and she doesn't want Susie to take a picture of her right at the very end. And of course the boat has Dr. Lipshit's name on it, so it contains 4 letters to give you a clue which did in her pants. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, why nobody wants to talk about Angelica pooping in her pants on Rugrats Go Wild? It's just a mystery to me. And it's like, why? Why does everyone who reviews that movie seem to omit that unbelievable, exciting, amazing fact? And I mean, even her parents reacted like she did. So, yep, she pooped her pants.